You've learned about individual views, but how do you combine them together to make a screen for an app? In this video, you will learn about putting views inside other views. You'll use an invisible view that combines other views. We'll discover what parent and child views are and how to recognize them in code, and explore some of the ways you can give hints to SwiftUI to change the size and position of views. Imagine that the Little Lemon app needs a username entry field. Let's explore how to fulfill this requirement by first examining the basic code created using an Xcode playground. In this scenario, a text field would work well for the user's name, along with a button to save it. Running this code in an Xcode playground results in a view with a width of the text field, the widest view. The height is the height of the text field and the button. This is a great start, but there's no space around the frame of each view. To try and correct the layout, you could use a spacer view or the padding protocol. The code now uses padding. However, in this case, there's now actually too much space between the button and the text field. It's double what's needed because padding was added to each view. One solution is to specify which sides to pad or even the amount of padding. But this may require a lot of time and effort, as well as unexpected results on different screen sizes and devices. It also makes adding a new view difficult. Instead, what you need is a way to combine related views. And not to mention, although the code as it is presented thus far runs in the Xcode playground, to work in a real SwiftUI iOS project, you need to add the elements, in this case, a text field and button to a group. That's just what stack views do. With stack views, there's the HStack for horizontal groups, VStack for vertical groups, and ZStack for grouping by depth. Because the name field goes on top of the button, you can use a VStack and add some padding. In this code, the VStack is invisible and combines views together. Also, the padding between the text field and button is correct, and there's also padding to the left and the right. You may be wondering why one call to padding changed all the other views. It's because the text field and button are inside the VStack. This means that they are child views of the VStack, their parent. This relationship is in your code. The VStack starts with an opening curly brace, then the text field, the button, and finally a closing curly brace. Any view inside those curly braces is a child view of the VStack. Padding worked because it was applied to the VStack. Parents apply modifications like padding to their children. The VStack knows the relationship between the views and adds padding to only the top or bottom of children that are next to each other. Did you know that child views can also contain views? In this case, the child becomes the parent for its children. This view hierarchy is also in the code. Let's explore this by adding a cancel button next to the OK button. Because adding the cancel button to the bottom of the VStack will put it below the OK button, it makes sense to use a HStack. This will ensure that the buttons are displayed on the same horizontal line. As HStack is also a view, you add it to the VStack. You then move the OK button into the HStack and add the cancel button to the code. The code specifies the view hierarchy. At the top is the main view container, which starts with some view. It contains a VStack, which contains a text field, and a HStack. The HStack contains two buttons, namely the OK and the cancel buttons, which are views within views. Here, a child view, HStack, becomes the parent for its children, the OK and cancel buttons. One more thing. The padding is also applied to both the OK and cancel buttons. Remember that a parent view applies modifications like padding to its children, even stacks. So, the VStack applies padding to the HStack, which then applies it to its children, the two buttons. Because the buttons are quite close together, let's explore how to change the spacing between them. Once again, although you could use a spacer or another method, doing so makes adding buttons harder. So, the preferred way is to use the spacing property of HStack, as in the code displayed on screen. That completes this version of the username entry view prototype. Note that it's also done in a way that makes adding views or changing order easy. Now you know how to use the invisible SwiftUI stack views to combine views in your UI. You should recognize the parent and child relationship between the views in SwiftUI code and how to use stack views and the parent-child view relationships to change the layout and size of views.